If you're a landlord or a wannabe landlord and you are buying real estate in a left-leaning state or municipality, how could this affect you?
Well, it's an interesting topic. I mean, you're diving into the world of politics-ish, which we don't always do on this show. But, you know, when it comes to landlord-tenant laws, I think it gets difficult. The further, you know, what we found is the further left you go, as far as I've seen, the landlord-tenant laws can get swayed toward the tenants, which might sound good, but it gets difficult for investors to actually go in and do what we do best, which is to buy under-optimized properties, to improve them, to get a return, to make communities better. So I've seen it, you know, in our own backyard. Portland, Oregon is a good example where they make it so hard on the landlord to come in and make those changes because of tenant laws that are supposedly there to protect the tenants, where landlords can't really do that anymore. And so in other words, the investment starts to move out of those areas. We had a situation in Washington State where one of our tenants beat up his girlfriend. You know, she was bloody on the patio. Like, it was a disaster. He scared a lot of people. He had drugs in and out. He wasn't paying rent for 12 months.
And changed the locks
because of
our apartment unit.
Because the tenant laws were to protect the tenant. The judge said, well, because of COVID, we can't get him out. Well, it had nothing to do with COVID or some virus or whatever. It had nothing to do with any of that. Because they had pushed it that far, we now had people that were in danger. We had people moving out of the apartments. We could no longer put money into the apartments because they weren't generating the right amount of revenue. Like, it was really tough. So I think that, like, in these states where it's very left-leaning or liberal, I'm not debating all the issues of the left on this show, but I'll debate the issue of landlord-tenant laws. It can be hostile toward landlords.
I think it's mostly bullshit. I mean, I think it's more of a mindset, kind of a mindset stuck for a lot of people. I mean, we all know people that own real estate and that are successful real estate investors in blue states, in red states, in purple states. So I see people use it as an excuse, especially starting out. I got started in my backyard. I got started investing in real estate in Eugene, Oregon. Now, there's not a lot of metrics that would support, hey, Eugene, Oregon is the best place to go and invest in real estate. In fact, there's a lot of people that would say, hey, I would never invest in Oregon, right? But I had a lot of success in Oregon. I know this market. I knew the sub-market. And, you know, I built relationships and put creative deals together and found success in a state that a lot of people would say are hostile toward landlords. And, you know, that said, I've had properties that have appreciated over time. Rents have gone up over time. You know, tenants have improved over time. And so, like, I believe full-heartedly there is opportunity everywhere. And you can take the extremes of, you know, states like California, New York. Like, people have built a shit ton of wealth through real estate in those states, and people will continue to build wealth in all the states across the entire United States and all over the world, for that matter. I watch way too many people let, you know, who's in office or who the governor is or who the mayor is dictate them not even making a move in real estate. Look, you can live where you want to live and invest where you want to invest, or invest where the numbers make sense. But I watch a lot of people allow that to hold them back to not invest at all. And to me, that's a mistake.
Well, I don't think you should be held back necessarily, but there are actual tangible laws that do affect the real estate investment and also do affect the pro forma and the potential returns. So, for example, in a state like California or even Oregon, there's rent caps. There's, same as New York, there's rent caps. So you can only move things so far, meaning you can only put so much capital into that project. So, like, I don't think the laws are bullshit. I think they do affect you. I do agree you can go anywhere and make money, but you've got to be aware of these things, because if it takes a year to get somebody out in Washington versus 30 days in Arkansas, that means something to me. Like, as an operator, that means more money, more effort, more time, more legal bills. Or in Arkansas, I can go in. So I think it affects the pro forma. It affects expectations. You have to understand these things. But I do agree, you have opportunity in every single market in different states. But, like, overall, when you look at this thing, whether it's bullshit or not, or whatever the case is, I think a lot of these politicians, by making it hard on landlords, do a disservice to the area, because when investors move out of an area, they stop buying the housing stock. They stop buying industrial, office, all of those things. They stop improving those. Versus areas that allow investors to come in and make those moves and aren't as harsh and are more of a partner, they improve that stock. I mean, look at Portland, Oregon. It's a tough place. I have investor friends there that are like, I can't do anything. I have my hands tied. Now, maybe they didn't understand that, or they bought wrong, or whatever that is. There's those things too. But like, laws do matter. I think laws do matter. And it does affect,
I'm not saying that laws don't matter. I think you make some valid points. I think the other argument to that, like, Portland, Oregon is a great example. The reason that, my investor friends that live in Portland that are kicking ass because they've been in the game for a while and they know the market. They know some markets. They've built the relationships. So they're going in well aware of what the restrictions are. Is it going to be harder? Yes. But in real estate, the harder the problem, the bigger of an opportunity to solve that problem.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say also, like, I have 50 states that I get to choose to invest in. And I do agree with you, Gabe. I think you can be successful in any state. I just personally, we have the ability to invest in any state. And if I have a choice, I'm going to invest in a state that gives me more flexibility. I think when the government comes in and affects supply and demand and things like that, it actually hurts the tenant in a lot of cases. I mean, you take Oregon, for example, right? You had landlords that might be more empathetic to their tenants, might do moderate rent raises or do no rent raises year after year because the property was performing well and they were happy. But once they implemented statewide rent control, then now every year they're 10% on the dot. Every single year, they're raising rents 10%, which can hurt the tenant. Or you see landlords that are coming in and kicking everybody out to rehab the property because then they can bring new tenants in at market rates, which hurts the people they kicked out. So anytime you see, in my personal opinion, and I have left and right leaning tendencies depending on the topic. I'm a capitalist, though, and that's a bad word in this with a lot of people these days. But when the government comes in and affects supply and demand, it's like going to a grocery store owner and saying you can only sell the product at this price. But the grocery store owner doesn't have control over their cost of goods, their rent, their utilities, their taxes, their insurance. That grocery store owner is eventually going to die, and there won't be a grocery store to service the people. So I think it always causes a backlash, and so. But I do agree, like health and safety for sure. Like, I think there needs to be government oversight to make sure your building's healthy and safe, and you're providing a good product for your tenants. But when you're dictating rent like that, that's a problem in my mind.
I don't disagree. I mean, like, I look at my portfolio and I talk to my property managers saying, hey, look, we have to have steady rent increases over the years, because if you get too far behind in market rent, then some of these states have, rent caps where you cannot go up above a certain amount. So then it's really hard to catch up to market rent. That said, I just think there's opportunity in all states, not just Travis-friendly MAGA states.
Oh, hey, wait! Don't. First of all, don't label me a Travis MAGA-friendly state. But I'll tell you this. I mean, it also dissuades large capital investments. Sometimes we might go into a property in fact, we just bought a manufactured housing community in Texas. I mean, these tenants literally need 4-wheel drive to get to their houses. There basically were no roads, right? There were drainage issues. We bought parks where sewage was flowing all over the place. It was a health and safety issue. These people lived in squalor. I've seen apartment buildings like this. And if an investor can go in and put millions of dollars in capex or hundreds of thousands of dollars in capital into a property, but they get the return. They can raise rents closer to market. They can get equity multiples. They can get a return on their investment. They're going to be encouraged to do that. But if they know they put all this capex in and the most they can raise rent is 3%, 4%, or rent freeze, like what might be potentially happening in New York City, they're not going to put the capital in. They're not going to improve these communities, and you're going to have blighted buildings and real estate that's on the downward spiral all over.
Which also creates an opportunity for a different investor depending on where they are in their investing cycle, right? And so, I mean, I think the key is, like, you need to be open-minded and you need to look for opportunities. If you're looking for opportunities, you will find opportunities. If you're looking for, like, death and destruction, and you will find death and destruction. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents. I mean, specifically, question to you, Mitch and Travis, like, I'm curious, like, with some of these things that are potentially going to be implemented in, cities like New York, like, what kind of impact will that have? I mean, depending on who the mayor ends up being, like, I would say that city leans very, very far left, and they've talked about things, far more extreme than rent control. I mean, they've talked about free housing. There's been people that have suggested giving tenants' ownership rights in the properties. Like where does something like this take us? Like let's talk specifically New York.
Well, I'll start a little higher level and just with a question to folks like the future potential mayor of New York and other folks. I think sometimes the socialist or the liberal, or however you want to label that message, can be really attractive because it includes a lot of words like free this, free this, free this, free this. And by the way, if we could pull that off, I'm all ears. My thing is, and it's always been this, is how are we going to do it?
Does Travis know? Does Travis know you're a liberal?
Yeah, well, he knows that I
I know now. So we have a lot of discussions to have lately.
Well, I'm not, and I'm not a conservative either. I'm just an independently floating person with a lot of opinions. So what I'm saying though is like I would like to know how. So like, because that opens up a deeper conversation. Because if we're taxing people more and we're punishing the producers, I'm not a big fan of that. Because I feel like in an economy where people are working their asses off, they're risking their houses, they're working 68 hours a week to build a business, to risk themselves, I think that those folks should be rewarded, not punished. Because that's how you drive innovation and that's how you take advantage of people's inner motivations. So for me, if it's taxing people more, then you've lost me already. I'm out. So like, now do we have something else that we're putting in place to offer these other services? I think that like, when it comes to social services and different things, there's absolutely areas where that we need to step in. And I think that's the definition of a beautiful country. For example, someone has a mental health issue, like say, or somebody has Down syndrome or a disability. Absolutely. We've got to step in and create systems to protect those people and take care of them. Right. But like going out and saying, we're going to provide free housing to somebody who is young and able, middle, it doesn't matter the age, right? We're going to just house them. I mean, we had somebody in our Washington apartment who was 25. He's not working. He's dealing drugs. And he has a free cell phone. He has housing paid for. He has food vouchers. He has all these things. Why are we rewarding people who are not giving back to our system and then punishing people who are? So for me, that's the problem.
So you think it's more of like it de-incentivizes the builders, the dreamers, to go out there. And, I agree, but it's interesting because I hear both sides. It's like, some will argue that, if basic needs are met, right? Like housing, food, healthcare, even a universal basic income, right? And like, then people have the time and ability to go pursue their dreams, the things they're passionate about. But not all people, right? Like, we took the approach of like, create that ourselves. Like, we're not going to allow the government. We're not going to rely on the government to take care of us. We're going to go pursue our dreams, and we're going to do that through owning assets, through buying real estate. Because I don't think like even those well-intentioned folks that want the government to take care of everybody, I don't think it always turns out that way. And even if those basic needs are met, most of us want to live above and beyond just a basic life with our basic needs met. And so, yeah, I do think it would create and de-incentivize a lot of people to do nothing, and maybe other people it would incentivize to go out there and pursue their dreams. But I think the important thing to remember is like, don't wait for that. Like if you have a dream and you have a desire, you want to build this life of freedom and life on your terms, like you can go do that. And real estate's allowed us to do that. And we haven't had to sit around waiting for the government to give us permission to go do that.
Well, the other thing too is like, you talk about the New York or these different areas. Again, I'm ears because here's the thing in our country. Here's what I believe. I don't think anybody's doing it right. Okay. The left, the right, the whatever. We have massive homelessness. We have mental health issues. We have drug problems. We have crimes. We have school shootings. We have government shutdown currently. We have all kinds of issues. So I do think we need to go to the drawing board. We need to offer solutions, and I'm open to hearing things. But I don't think that we go into a room where 10 people or 8 people are producing and 2 people aren't, and we reward the people who are not, and we punish the people who are. I feel like that's a fundamental. If you break that rule, you break down sort of the human incentive, and that's a problem. And so now I was in Spain for a month, and it's very sort of more socialist. And by the way, no homelessness, very clean roads. They've got people out cleaning every day in the morning. No,
just don't go to the hospital. Just don't go to the hospital.
Well, very, very peaceful. They outlive us by 8 to 10 years. So I'm open to hearing different opinions, but I'd love to hear how. And I think that people avoid that statement, how, because they don't have a way to do it. They're just sort of bobbleheads at the mic with all these great ideas. Well, free. But how are you going to do it? And I think we need to get there.
Well, then who pays for it? Who pays for this? Like that's important. We're running at a deficit across so many cities at the federal level, like it's basic economics.
In places like New York, need to be careful that they take all of the producers, all the people who build the place, who maintain the place, who maintain the buildings, build the business, own the business, and they take all those people and they say, hey, we're going to punish all of you. Because guess what? Those people will vote with their feet. They'll move.
Well, that happened in Portland, in Multnomah County. They punished the hell out of business owners. They punished the hell out of property owners. They tax them into an oblivion. And businesses are leaving people. I mean, maybe not at mass scale, but it does incent people to move, like business owners to move outside of Multnomah County. I was a business owner in Portland, Oregon. People that are owning real estate where their hands are tied. I mean, you've got people that were squatting in homes that didn't even own, and they had squatters' rights. Like, what fucking planet does that make sense to have someone?
Travis, what would you do? You have a property, someone squats in it, they move in. What do you do?
I hire you. Look at those arms. Just go there and bash some heads. Oh, state champion wrestler. I mean, you're going to get way further than I am. No, there's a guy you can hire, I've heard, where they'll get in the same way the squatters did. They'll break in the same way they did. And now they're a squatter. And now they're the squatter's roommate. And then they play drums all night and they blast AC/DC all night and they scare the people out. I mean, people were resorting to that because
that makes sense to me, right? Like why?
Yeah.
Like somebody
capitalism, a new business started. I provide a service
into a property you own, and people are afraid to tell them to leave. That's nuts.
It's nuts.
Well,
that's crazy.
Here's the thing. If you're listening to this and you're like, oh, that's rude, that's terrible, that's inhumane, that's all those things. I got a question for you. If somebody breaks into your house right now and they're living there and they're living in one of your rooms, what are you going to do? Are you going to call the police? Are you going to make their life hell? Are you going to push them out? Are you going to force them out? So I think that it's easy when people are removed from these issues to get all up in arms. Oh, it's this rich landlord who's da da da. So, but when it comes to them, I've watched several interviews where they're like, well, we need to let people, we need to provide people, free college or whatever. And they ask for a donation right there. And they're like, well, no, I'm not going to donate to somebody else's free college. So be careful what you say, right? And unless you're willing to do it, be careful where you stand.
Well, Mitch, you mentioned Mamdani, the mayoral candidate in New York. His platform key proposals are rent freeze for tenants in rent stabilized units, free buses, free fare, universal childcare, city-owned grocery stores. That sounds like a disaster. Raising the minimum wage, raising taxes on high earners and corporations. But some of the stuff, like when it comes, like for me, like providing basic needs like healthcare. We live in a civilized nation. I think there's certain things that we could be helping people out with a lot more. Obviously, we beat the horse on rent freezes. I don't think that makes sense when you interfere with supply and demand. I think anytime you have the government that owns anything, like a grocery store, I think that's a disaster. I mean, the other thing too is you can sort of look at history and you can see how heavily socialist nations do. You can also see how communist nations do. And socialism and capitalism, in my mind, consolidates a lot of power to the government. And on paper, I think it looks great. I want to take care of people, but when you give the government that much control, corruption happens. I think we see that all the time. You see that in communist nations. You see that, hell, even in Portland, like there's a lot of speculation that there's a lot of corruption in the city government where these people are getting handouts from the tent manufacturers and the cooler manufacturers. The homeless people burn a tent down. They bring out a new tent. My sister is an ER nurse, and every homeless person, they come in and out all the time. They get high, they overdose, they give them Narcan, they stabilize them, give them a meal, send them out with a tent. Every single homeless person that leaves, they send out with a tent. I think there might be some kickbacks there. I don't know. I'm always a conspiracy theorist on this show, so probably going to get welcome the trolls. Come on out. Well, you also talk about raising taxes on high earners and corporations. That sounds great. I think everybody needs to pay their fair share. But also, like if you disincent and you penalize businesses in, say, New York or Multnomah County and Portland, businesses have the ability to walk with their feet. Investors have the ability to walk with their feet. They vote with their feet and they leave. And they leave a vacuum. There's a lot of hotels, there's businesses going BK in Portland.
Well, I think the free market solves some problems. I'm not a complete anarchist where I don't think there's a place for government. And I don't I do think the free market solves some issues. And there is a place for government and there is a place for some regulation, but certain areas have overregulated, and I also don't think that throwing money or free actually solves the problem. So, when you asked me, what am I thinking? Hearing you guys talk, I was thinking about my property in said state in Oklahoma. And, I'm thinking about some of these tenants and I'm thinking about, these are all tenants that had been previously been homeless. A lot of them were and are on drugs. And so some people say, people wouldn't be on drugs if their basic needs were met. They wouldn't, if they weren't homeless, it would solve these issues. I've heard people very close to me, talk these things. And I often think about this property. And here's a property that I've put millions of dollars into out of my own pocket to better the property, improve the property. And I have tenants in there, and some of the tenants are great tenants, but you guys have also seen, some of the not so great tenants. And free housing, and a lot of these tenants also get free food, and some of them get free healthcare, and some of them even get free case management. It hasn't solved the problem, right? A lot of these tenants, unfortunately, are still on drugs. They're still behaving in ways that are criminal. This particular property, we've had some crazy things, criminal things happen, not always my tenants. And so free doesn't always solve the problem. That's a real life scenario of like, here's free housing, here's a voucher, you get a free housing. You were homeless and now you live in a brand new 2-bedroom home. But a lot of these tenants are used to living a certain way. And just because their basic needs are met, it's not solving the problem necessarily of drug use. It's not solving the problem of mental health. And so then it creates like, is this a safe environment for the other tenants? Is it a safe environment for the tenants not on drugs? And so it's a little bit of a catch 22, because I want to believe that people's intentions are good, and I think oftentimes they are. We just don't always know the actual net benefit of when you just give something away, how that actually impacts society as a whole or that community as a whole.
I don't know if it was ever the intention. I think I don't want a single mom that's doing her best to raise kids to go without. Like, we need to take care of our own. I do. I don't want to sound like a heartless capitalist. Like, I do feel like healthcare in a civilized nation should be better than it is. And are you going to ask me to solve that? No, I'm not running for president, right? I do. And so I don't want people to think that I'm a cold, heartless bastard, but I do agree with you. I think if you're a willing, able, capable human that can contribute, whatever that is, do something, then I think you need to. And I think if you just give things away, I think with the wrong person, that could cause challenges. I think if you go back to what you're talking about, Gabe, I don't think it's the drug addiction. I don't think it's the lack of home. I don't think it's not living in a house or being, unhoused or homeless, whatever the case is. I think it's mental health issues. And I think that's systemic. And that goes back to healthcare and helping people out. And I know that mental health is abysmal in this country. So this is a real estate podcast, but I think sometimes we've got to really look at the root problem and help those people out.
Well, I think so too. And I think, in our country, we have the ability to have it all. And when I say have it all, I think that the left and I think the left and the right could come together and say, hey, what's important on the left and what's important on the right. But the thing is, at least in my opinion, is one needs to happen before the other. For example, we cannot punish all the business owners and the creators to give away their resources and help said folks, but we can build up the business owners. We can support them. We can cut the red tape. We can let them go grow, and we can create such a surplus and such a rich nation that we can afford to fund things like universal healthcare, or to help the single mom out who's on the street with a couple kiddos, or to help folks that have a disability, because I don't want some veteran or somebody with Down syndrome or whatever it is that doesn't have the same capability as me to suffer. So those folks, I think we can take care of. I think we have the ability to have a beautiful country if we can support the producers, take funds in a way that's fair, resources in a way that's fair from those, right, via taxes. That's fine. And go help those folks. But I think one thing, the domino first that needs to fall is help build businesses. If you think about the business of your home, if you manage the business of your home correctly, you have enough to give to help somebody, to donate to your church, to a cause. But if you don't manage the business of your home first, the cup's not overflowing. You can't go give. And I think the same for a country. We've got to support our producers. From there, we'll overflow and we can go help them do amazing things and have social programs that really matter.
I think it's spot on. I was having this conversation recently with a younger person, and I said, look, I don't care if it's the person down the street or this person, that person. I believe in the goodness of humanity, and I actually rather see more money in your pocket, their pocket, than the government's pocket. Because I've watched people and we've been fortunate to be around a lot of people, a lot of successful people, a lot of financially successful people. And I've watched, like we said this, I think in a past episode, money just makes you more of who you are. I've watched people create and build, wealth or a fortune. And I know we've done this too, where we're able to, as our cash flow increases, as our wealth increases, we're able to do things like give away homes, and we're able to do things like offer things to some of our tenants or improve the properties they live in, because the property supports us doing that. And so I've seen it with you guys. I've been involved myself where it's as a property increases in value, as a cash flow increases, I'm able to create opportunities to give back in a meaningful way. And sometimes that could be, a free home, or improving the property, the better lives of all the tenants. And I think people forget that piece of it. They want to assume that all business owners are all capitalists. Anyone with money is greedy and money hungry. And that's not the experience that I've had. That's not what I've seen with the people that I'm around and the people that I've witnessed. I've watched so many people be able to build and accumulate massive amounts of wealth and just be able to pour into other people and give back in a really meaningful way.
Well, I do believe in social capitalism. I think every business transaction, everybody needs to win. You take just a simple rental property. The tenants need to win, number one, because you're providing them a product, right? You need to win through the receipts of rent. The bank needs to win by being able to charge interest on their depositors' funds. Your investors need to win by getting a return on their invested capital, right? I think that if a business transaction benefits all parties involved, I think it can happen. And I think that's very realistic. And I think that's a very myopic way of thinking, to where a successful business transaction, one person has to win, other people had to lose. And there are slumlords. There are slumlords out there in the real estate world that jack rents up, put no money back into the property. They hurt the tenants, or company owners that provide unsafe working conditions for their employees. There are people out there like that. But I do agree with you, Gabe. I think all in all, people are generous. I mean, look at the giving pledge with these billionaires that are pledging to give all their money away. That's way more money and way more impact than a nonprofit that's resource constrained can provide. So I do believe in social capitalism. I think it's a thing.